Hi friends, I'm Gio, and welcome back to my channel. This story is called Click. Up next is the 100-meter butterfly. Those involved, take your places at the pool, an announcer said. I chugged the last of my water bottle, climbed out of the hot tub by the diving well, and walked over to the main pool. Eddie, my teammate and best friend, followed. He was in this race as well. Welcome to the Tri-School Spring Swim Meet. We're hosting it at our school down in Vegas this year, and technically, we have home pool advantage. Good thing we trained for this. Preseason training is always exciting because the first swim meet is approaching and I have to get ready for it. Early season training and meets are exciting because the beginning of the season is always exciting. Mid-season to end season, meaning January and February, gets tedious. By then it's been 4 or 5 months of daily 2-hour workouts with weights and treadmills. Daily 5 a.m. 2-hour swim practices, except Sunday. Monday through Friday classes and all its homework. Good thing I'm taking 2 classes this semester. And somewhere I had to fit in my job. I work part-time at the auto parts store, Monday through Thursday, with a full-time shift on either Saturday or Sunday, depending on when the swim meets are scheduled. Your family coming this time? Eddie asked. No. Dad's delivering something in New Mexico, and Mom has a date with her new boyfriend, I said. Speaking of boyfriends, when are you going to find one? Eddie asked. What guy would want to date a man who has to constantly practice, and most weekends are taken up by swim meets and work? Hey everybody, date Davis and be socially deprived, I said. You are lonely and desperate, and I wouldn't want to date you with that kind of an attitude, Eddie said. When had he become my shrink? I'm not lonely, exactly, but I want something different. I want someone special who could say, "Good job, Davis," and "I'm proud of you, Davis," and I could tell him I love you, I said. How long has it been since you've seen somebody? You're turning as needy as my girlfriend, Eddie said. It's both the best 6 months and the worst 6 months of the year. It lasts from September through March, sometimes longer. My friends and family only see the excitement at the meets. They don't understand how much I sacrifice to get here. I'm exhausted and I don't see an end, I said. Dude, season ends in 3 weeks. Keep it together, Eddie said. Like you and your girlfriend? I asked. That's different, Eddie said. I needed space because I can't deal with her clinging. The scoreboard said I'm in lane 6, so I pushed between the judges, the other swimmers, the coaches, and a lot of other people to get there. I'm Davis Nantucket, a senior majoring in sociology, minoring in mathematics, and if it wasn't for taking extra classes during the last few summer semesters, I wouldn't be graduating this year. Our team wore black, knee-length, low-rise jammers with a green swirl on the side. Most of us had black swim caps and black goggles. What made me a little different was the tattoo of a dolphin on my shoulder. Swimmers, on your marks, the announcer said. I took my place at lane 6 of the Olympic-sized pool in the athletic complex. Eddie took his place at lane 2. This area of the athletic complex had 2 pools. One a traditional 50-meter-long, 25-meter-wide, 2.5-meter deep Olympic pool, and the other was a 40-meter-long, 25-meter-wide, 5-meter deep pool called a diving well. It had 3 levels of diving boards, all at different heights, and 2 taller diving platforms, but nobody dove today. It currently was sectioned off into 8 lanes for the longer races, like anything 400 meters, 800 meters, or 1,500 meters. The air smelled thickly of chlorine, and in spite of the air conditioning, humidity was high. Some swimmers worked better at longer races. I preferred the burst of energy needed for the shorter ones. My favorite and specialty was the 100-meter butterfly. This race. My teammate Eddie spoke to our coach and showed him something about his starting blocks. Our coach gave a timeout gesture to the nearest judge. The judge walked over and looked, then waved at the judge's table. Something must be wrong with the starting blocks for lane 2. Eddie, a junior, would probably be captain next year. A maintenance guy came over, made some adjustments to the blocks, and spoke to the coaches and judges. It gave me a chance to stretch my arms and look around. A guy with a university press pass hanging around his neck lay on the edge of the pool, his camera ready to catch us mid-dive. If I squinted, I could make out his first name, Terry. Being a reporter must be an exciting life. He wasn't the only reporter here. 2 people from the local news were also here. One guy with a camera was taking video of the crowd and the judges and narrowed in on the other reporter, a woman who interviewed one of the coaches. Being a reporter would be more fulfilling than a sociology degree. Great. I'm on my last semester and I'm thinking of switching majors. I'm more burned out than I thought. How many more weeks until the season is over? 3? Terry laid on the side of the pool, and he looked to be my height. He wore faded jeans and an old hoodie, and beat-up tennis shoes, and he had a very nice camera sealed up in a taped-up plastic bag, a cheap man's waterproofing. Terry had a backpack with him, probably for his camera equipment and whatever else reporters carried. Terry ran his fingers through his mussed-up light auburn hair and aimed his camera. Were his eyes blue, or was it only a reflection from the water? Something about him seemed... Don't laugh, okay? But give him pointy ears, and he could be an elf. Narrow-pointed chin, chiseled cheeks, slim build, and eyebrows that could have been professionally sculpted. Terry had that casual, hadn't shaved for a week kind of look, and when he looked into the camera, making some minor adjustments, his lips puckered a little and his brows lowered. Whoever Terry was, he took his job serious. That was a kissable mouth. I bet Terry's lips were sensitive and would respond to the slightest pressure. Terry wasn't wearing a ring. Could somebody as sexy as Terry be single? He better be gay or bi, because he is cute. Terry never even noticed I was looking at him. It would be nice to get to know him. It would be nice to get to know anybody. Maybe Terry would like to join the team for pizza tonight. He could interview everybody, and maybe I could get to know him. Somebody slapped me on the back. Coach. He noticed where I was staring, and who I was staring at. Coach placed a hand on my head and rotated it until I looked at the water. He growled, "Win the race, hotshot, then snuggle up with someone." "Yes, sir," I said. Whatever the problem with Eddie's starting blocks, the maintenance guy had solved it. Eddie climbed into position, adjusted his cap and goggles, and nodded to the judge. Time to get serious. Coach was right. But winning this race might impress the reporter, and maybe I'd finally get a date. First chance I got, I'd talk to Terry. I adjusted my goggles and swim cap and got my game face on. "Focus, Davis," I whispered to myself, but I risked a tiny glance at Terry as he lay at the very edge of the pool, his camera ready. The buzzer sounded. I leaped off the starting blocks and was first into the water. I kicked hard, propelling me halfway across the pool. I surfaced and lunged forward, forcing a little extra speed and power with each stroke. A guy in a red jammer kept pace with me. I poured on the speed and gained a couple of inches. He did the same and caught up. He was good. We reached the wall, and I cut the flip almost too close, but it gave me enough thrust to speed a little ahead. A strong swimmer, the guy caught up. I pushed myself even harder. The guy on the opposite side of me caught up. These guys were NCAA championship kind of good. I upped my game and fought for the lead. The second flip arrived, and I timed it close again, keeping my lead. The second guy fell back a little, but the first guy kept pace with me. The second guy swam even harder, came even with us, and it was a 3-way fight to swim for the final wall flip. We all were exactly the same. If I was going to impress Terry, now was the time. The second guy couldn't keep up and fell behind, but the first guy matched my pace. I don't know where the last bit of strength came from, but I dug deep and reached the wall touched it, and raised my hand. Click. Terry was right there taking the winning photo. He smiled. Maybe I had impressed him. Good race, the guy in the lane next to mine panted. You too, I said. Davis, you won, one of my teammates yelled. I tore my cap and goggles off and waved them. Click. Terry took a picture, and another, of me. Did that mean he liked me, or was he only doing his job? Eddie jumped out of the pool, cheering, and he pulled me from the water. Do you know what this means? Eddie yelled. We're in the lead. Terry approached, and suddenly I forgot all about Eddie, about winning, about anything but Terry's pale blue eyes. Davis, do you have time for a couple of questions? Terry said. Water had splattered his hoodie. I wanted to ask, what's your phone number? But with Eddie next to me, I didn't dare. That, and I was out of breath. I tried to slow my breath so I could talk, but I had pushed myself hard. I'm Terry Block, with the school newspaper. Hold still, he said, taking several pictures. Print edition will be ready in a week, but the online one will be ready as soon as I put the article together. Did Terry know how sexy he was? I suddenly went tongue-tied. How long had it been since I'd asked someone out? Walk with me? I asked. I hope I didn't drool. We walked around the pool. Journalism must be exciting, I said. Sometimes, but you never know what will happen. Get this, I can't even swim, and my editor assigns me to a swim meet, Terry said. The risks of making the big bucks. Did you like it? I asked. It takes a lot of prep to know the right questions to ask, and a lot of waiting to get the right shot, but I do, Terry said. Did you get the right shot? I asked. I think you'll like this one, Terry said, nodded, and flipped through the pictures on the tiny screen on the back of his camera. He stopped on one with the diver about to enter the water. Black swim cap, black goggles, the swimmer frozen in mid-dive, a slightly blurry dolphin on his shoulder. That's me, I said. I got lucky, Terry said, with a slight hook to his smile. Was he flirting? I hope so. Let's say you only got one question. What would you ask me? I said. Are you doing anything later? I mean, so I can interview you? Terry said. I took a chance, hoping his question meant what I hoped it meant. We're going to Heartfire Gourmet Pizza after the meet. Would you like to come with me? Me? Hang out with you guys? I can't even swim, Terry said. You and me, let's make it a date, I said. Besides, Coach is buying. Does that mean I'm a cheap date or something? Terry said, but he took a small step closer to me. I took a breath. How could I ask if he was gay without it seeming awkward? Eddie was right. I was way out of practice. If dating a guy makes you uncomfortable, consider it an interview with the team, and forget I asked about anything more. Terry gave me a playful grin. What if I don't want to forget? In that case, would you mind swapping phone numbers? I asked. Terry seemed to play it cool, but something about the way he almost smiled, or the way he almost looked at me, or the way he almost nodded. I bet Terry liked me as much as I liked him. I hope I read him right. Consider it a date. I'll meet you there, Terry said, and told me his phone number. I am an idiot. My phone is in the locker. Safe. Where would I put my phone in my jammer anyway? You'll have to call me, I said, and gave Terry my number. Terry dialed. Somewhere in the locker room, a phone faintly rang. I was the luckiest guy here. A bunch of the guys from my team surrounded me, shouting and cheering and clapping me on the back. I'll be sore tomorrow, but the win was worth it. Coach whistled and waved to the side of the diving well. The 11 o'clock news wants a group photo. Line up and get your 15 seconds of fame. We lined up. The camera guy from the news took video, and Terry snuck in beside him and took a lot of pictures. The reporter from the TV news singled me out. Davis, how does it feel to break the pool record? I didn't know I did that, I said, playing with my goggles. You did. Any secrets for up-and-coming swimmers? She asked. Train hard, I said, and spotted Terry. It helps if you have somebody special rooting for you. It also helps if you're going to party hard later, Eddie said, laying an arm across my shoulders. Do you have somebody cheering you on? The reporter asked. It must have been my imagination, but Terry inched closer. My man Davis has his eye on somebody, Eddie said. I understand you're in the 200-meter butterfly and a 200-meter freestyle tomorrow morning? The reporter asked. Coach has 2 of us for the butterfly, me and Eddie. Several of us are in the freestyle, I said. The interview ended, and Eddie nudged me towards Terry. Well, nudge is not strong enough of a word. Shoved would be more accurate. Eddie clucked his tongue and looked at me with that get on with it kind of look. I gripped my goggles and said, Terry, after we get showered and changed, Coach wants to talk to the team. What say we meet at Heartfire's in an hour? Eddie has a laptop we can use to look at your pictures, but it's an older model. What kind of cord plugs into your camera, or does your camera plug into the other machine? Eddie said, making an odd leer at me. Did Eddie mean that sexually? Terry got out the cord and showed Eddie. Standard USB on one end, Rebel T6 on the other, and any picture display program should work. I use a freeware program I found. If you're interested, I'll show you where you can find it too, Terry said. I think Davis can find it just fine, Eddie said, smiling evilly at me. Terry hadn't noticed the innuendo. Eddie better watch out. I'm going to get even. Free is the right price, I said, glaring at Eddie. Men, we need to talk about tomorrow. You've got 30 minutes to hit the showers and get changed before a team meeting, Coach yelled. Coach, can't it wait? I'm starving, Eddie whined. The faster you shower and get dressed, the faster we finish, Coach yelled back. Sorry, duty calls, I said to Terry. See you in an hour. Terry gave me a half grin, but his eyes didn't focus on mine. He stared at my waist, at my chest, and finally met my eyes. Don't worry about me. I have a lot of pictures to go through, he said. As soon as I went into the locker room, I stripped, dumping my goggles, my swim cap, and my jammer on the bench in front of my locker before taking a towel to the showers. The hot water felt amazing on my shoulders. That was the downside of not having a boyfriend. No one to massage the tightness in my back or ease the tension of my neck. No one to cuddle with after a long meet, and no one to fall asleep next to as we binge-watched some show. Going home to a roommate isn't the same thing. Once dressed, I wrapped my jammer and swim cap in a towel and stuffed them in my duffel. I took a peek outside the locker room, hoping to spot Terry. Would he be willing to come back to my place to massage my shoulders tonight? They were stiffening up. Terry sat near the diving well, packed next to him, and focused on the camera. His face was intense as he looked through the pictures. He was lucky. He had a career ahead of him. I graduated in a few weeks, and the swim season would be over. What do I do then? Work in human resources? Coach's meeting started as a critique of our styles and forms and how we could do better tomorrow. Then our team captain said a few words. I wish they'd hurry up, for once I agreed with Eddie. I'm starving, and I couldn't wait to meet Terry. When the meeting ended, Coach said, "The rest of you take off. I need to talk to Davis." "Now, Coach?" I asked. Coach closed his computer down, sat on his desk, and folded his arms. "Your times might qualify you to try out for the Olympics," Coach said. "Seriously?" I asked. "If you're interested, we've got some work ahead of us," Coach said. "I'm interested," I said. "Here's what we'll do. We'll tell everyone after the meet, tomorrow. I don't want them distracted. Monday, I'll have some dates and target times, and you get ready to work," Coach said. "Wait until I tell my family. I could be in the Olympics. Me. I'm sure no one on the team would notice the nonstop grin on my face." We spoke about this for the next few minutes before Coach said, "Let's call it a night. Pizza is waiting." As we walked out, Coach walked over to a wall panel near the door, clicked a couple of buttons that turned the lights off in the pool area, the swimming pool lights, and the lights in the locker room. We walked slowly to our cars, chatting about tonight's meet, about trying out for the Olympics, and we passed a couple vehicles still in the parking lot. One had press passes hanging from its rearview mirror. The parking lot lights illuminated the name on one of them. Terry Block. Terry's car. Smart. He had extra passes so he wouldn't forget. Why would Terry be here this late? Was he waiting for me? Maybe he'd forgotten something. Had I forgotten something? My goggles? Those were my new ones, and I'd spent extra on them. I checked my pockets and my duffel. The duffel only had my suit and my cap and a few toiletries. My goggles weren't there. They weren't in my pockets either. When was the last time I had seen them? After the last race. I was holding them for the interview. I'd set them on the bench to get a shower. They must still be in the locker room. If I didn't go back and find them, the janitors might throw them away. "Coach, I need to get back in the locker room," I yelled. Coach let me in and turned the locker room lights on. "Turn them off before you go." I walked to my locker. The goggles weren't in my locker. I had put my things on the bench while I showered. I checked around the bench. There they were. My goggles had fallen on the floor. I sat on the bench, unzipped my duffel, and I stuffed the goggles inside. Since Terry was still here, would he like to share a ride? It would give us a chance to talk without the guys around. He wasn't a boyfriend, not even a friend, but I liked him. What would it be like to kiss those lips? Having a boyfriend would be nice. Since he's a reporter, Terry must have a lot of interesting stories. Let's start date number 1, early. I needed to call him. I quickly found his number on my phone, added him to contacts, and hit redial. It started to ring on my phone, then it softly rang nearby. The pool room? Why would he still be there? I pushed the door to the pools open. Terry? It was dark. The emergency lights were on, and the exit lights were on, but that was it. The phone seemed to ring by the diving well. I walked closer, letting it ring. Terry's phone lit up. It was by the diving well, next to a backpack and a pile of wet clothes. Something wasn't right. Something splashed. It wasn't the occasional splash as if somebody were throwing rocks in the water. It was continuous. Somebody was in the water. Oh no, Terry couldn't swim. Terry's phone kept ringing. An insane terror flooded my guts and my stomach clenched. Terry's phone rang and rang and rang. Shit. Terry, I yelled, and ran. There was enough light to show the edge of the pool. The water was dark, but something darker was splashing around in lane 4 of the diving well. A short ways away from the splashing was a floating, tiny green light bouncing away. "Help!" gasped a ragged, small voice that cut off. Had he sunk? "Oh my God, Terry!" I yelled, pulling my shirt over my head. I dropped my phone and shirt and dove. In a second, I was at the darkness. I stretched my arms out as wide as I could. Where was he? Had he started sinking? I tucked and dove, running into his hand. I grabbed it and pulled, trying to get his hand to the lane divider rope. Terry kicked, shot to the surface, his arms wrapping around the lane divider, his back to me. Terry coughed. I wrapped my arms around him and held him so he wouldn't slip off, his chest heaving. "I've got you," I said. It took a second before he could speak, and all he said was, My camera." I wanted to say, "You could have died," or "Stupid idiot," or "You scared the snot out of me," but instead I replied, "You're more important." I helped Terry float on his back and gently helped him get to the wall. Terry started to shiver as soon as I got him out of the water. Shock was setting in. I took Terry to the hot tubs, and while he sat down and rested, I quickly retrieved his camera, then went into the locker room and turned on the pool lights. I removed my pants and shoes so they could dry. I sat with Terry in the hot tub. Terry still shook in spite of the warmth, and I placed an arm around his shoulders. Seriously frightened, Terry snuggled into me, his breath ragged. "You're safe now," I whispered, pulling him close. A little conversation might help him relax. The underwater lights made the water sparkle and blue. The ripples reflected in crazy, gentle patterns across the walls and ceiling, and I softly spoke. "This is when I like the pools best, when the main lights are out, but the pools are lit. It becomes magic, and I can finally relax. For a little while, all my problems vanish in the beauty." After a few minutes, Terry stopped shivering and finally spoke. That was really dumb of me. You must admit, there are safer ways to meet guys, I said, hoping a little light flirting would help him relax. He did, but his closeness, his warmth, had another effect. What if we kissed? Terry gave a soft chuckle. I guess I really should learn to swim, Terry said. I find it a pretty useful skill. Lesson number 1, don't swim alone, I said. Are you volunteering? Terry said. Something in his tone seemed playful and flirty. My left arm was still around his shoulders, and his left hand reached up to my left hand and held it. We'll have to find a time that fits into my schedule, because I'm not letting you be alone, I said. How about now? Terry said, and stepped out of the hot tub. He headed for the diving well. Coming? It was my turn to chuckle, and I climbed out. Terry took my hand and guided me to the pool. The lights under the pool turned the water into light blue magic, and the rippled reflections played across his skin. Are you always like this when you get rescued? I asked. Don't know. Rescue me again and let's find out, Terry said, and sat on the edge of the diving well. He slid into the water, but kept his hand on the edge. The grin he gave me wasn't exactly nice. It was a little playful, and definitely naughty. I slid into the water beside him. Let's start with something basic, treading water. What started as something simple evolved into a kiss. I don't know how long we'd been making out in the pool when I heard a faint, "It should be this button," a male voice said. Click went the camera. The flash went off and blinded me. Warn me before you do that, a second male voice said. We weren't alone. Was that Eddie and Coach? Eddie, aiming Terry's camera at us, yelled, "Found them, Coach. Come check out the zoom on Terry's camera. Smile, guys. Wait until I show the team." Click. 2 years later, Terry and I cuddled on our sofa, cradling the laptop on our laps and staring at the pictures of my college swim days. Especially the day we met. Especially the picture Eddie took of us in the diving well. "Can you believe the look on your face?" Terry said, sipping his wine. "It's nothing compared to yours," I said, and kissed him. I was so embarrassed. "Remind me why we didn't toss Eddie in the pool then?" Terry asked. "He was holding your camera, and you yelled that your life was on it," I said. "That it was. Smile." Terry held up his phone so we both were in the picture. "How about another swimming lesson?" I asked. "You do remember what happened after every swimming lesson," Terry said, fighting a lopsided smirk. "That's why we got married," I said, kissing my husband's hand. Thanks, guys, for joining me. In case you missed it, this story is a companion story to Swim. That story tells Terry's side of the tale, while this one tells Davis's. Remember to leave a like, a comment, or even subscribe. It helps my little channel get noticed. See you next time. Peace.